HQ is presented by Caesars Sportsbook. We are going to pick every game against the spread. We have 3 coming up on Thanksgiving. We have a bunch more on Sunday, a couple really good early games on CBS. And thankfully on CBS, we have a good game on Thanksgiving as well. Can't say the same for that first game of Thanksgiving, the Lions and the Bears. It gets better after that. Tommy Tran has more on our Thanksgiving slate.
Week 12 in the NFL kicks off with 3 Thanksgiving games, with all 6 teams coming off losses. It's been another dreadful year in the Motor City, as the Lions still the only winless team in the league. And getting the wounded Chicago Bears at home might be one of their best chances left to get in the win column.
We're trying to win games 14-13 or 16-13. No, but we'll do whatever it takes to win a game.
In the Big D, the Raiders come in on a 3-game losing streak to take on the Cowboys, who were held in single digits for the first time all year against the Chiefs. Dak will look to put that performance in the rearview mirror against a struggling Raiders defense.
Sure, we've got to put it past us. We know with the stretch ahead, it's a resilient team is going to continue to fight and get better. I can promise you that.
And the final game on Thursday kicks off in the Big Easy, with New Orleans Saints hosting the Buffalo Bills. The Saints have dropped 3 straight as injuries have been piling up. As for the Bills, coming into Week 11, they were favored to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. After a blowout loss at home against the Colts, they now find themselves in the 2nd spot in the AFC East behind the surging Patriots.
That's a fortunate thing for us that we get to play on Thursday and try to get this taste out of our mouths.
Who will get back on track on Thanksgiving? Week 12 is about to get underway.
All right, Tommy Tran, thank you. Who's going to get back on track between these 2 guys, Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco? Another rough week last
Well, I knew I was going there because I had a lot of the same picks he had, so that was.
We pushed. We both went 6-9. I was a little better in my over-unders. I was 7-8, but still.
But didn't I tell you last week? I said Brady has a lot of the same picks that I have, so my chances of winning are going down out
Here's
the window.
my advice: just fade me. All right, folks. It's been like 3 weeks in a row like this. Just fade me. Whatever I tell you, bet against me. And, by the way, in particular, yeah, it's been 3 weeks in a row.
That's 7.
I had a hot week the one week. Jack, our producer.
Okay, so you went like, you had 4 bad ones, a hot one, and then 3 bad ones.
It was like 3 okay ones. Just fade me at this point. I mean, that's where I'm at, especially with whatever my pick is for the Lions. I can't seem to figure that one out.
Yeah, and it's the lowest total of the week at 41.5. Lions and Bears. Justin Fields with the bruised ribs. He's not going to play in this game.
Yeah, and we assume Jared Goff isn't either. It's probably going to be Tim Boyle. So you've got Andy Dalton and Tim Boyle squaring off on Thanksgiving. Hopefully you keep your food down, Pete, for your Thanksgiving.
I'll be ready. I'll be ready to go. I won't have eaten by then. I'll be sitting in here working.
Okay, you'll still be waiting.
I'll be working.
Waiting to get into that Thanksgiving meal. I just want you to throw it up once you see whatever this performance is.
I know your girls are young, but how are you going to explain to them why the Lions have to play every Thanksgiving?
I have to travel for work on Thanksgiving, so I'll unfortunately will not be spending it with them. But trust me, I'm avoiding that entire conversation altogether. So thankfully, I have to travel on Thanksgiving. In regards to this matchup, though, I think the Bears, I'm leaning here with the Bears just because I won't pick the Lions the rest of the year, even though I hate the hook here. Look, the Lions were more competitive last week. Say what you want. On the road versus Cleveland, I thought their defense stepped up at times and played okay. You saw DeAndre Swift go off. I think he could be effective in this matchup. But I trust Andy Dalton. Like, if we're right now talking about 2 backups going in to be able to get their team a win, I trust the Bears. I trust Andy Dalton. I think even with everything going on with Matt Nagy on the outside, I still think they get the job done. They get the win. I'll lay the 3.5.
I don't. I'm on the Lions, and
You'll probably be right because I haven't gotten them right all year.
All this stuff with Matt Nagy, there's talk that he might get fired after the game if he loses. Did you see what happened?
There's talk that he's already going to be fired.
Yeah, even if they win.
Yeah. Did you see what happened when he at his kids' high school football game?
Yeah, they're already
terrible. They were chanting "Fire Nagy" at his kids' high school.
Now
game. That's way too far if you ask me. But you have now there's reports the players don't like him. I mean, look, the bottom line, he's out. What?
A young Pete Prisco would be at that game yelling "Fire Nagy" during the whole. A young Pete Prisco would have done that.
Yeah, like back in the day in the '60s when they.
Back in the day, probably 2 weeks ago.
They chanted "Goodbye, Allie." They had that chant when he fired Allie Sherman when he was with the Giants. I was a kid then.
And you were probably there going in.
No, my dad was though. He was right there in the middle of it. No, the thing about this is I think the Lions are still playing hard, and they played a lot of good teams close. Remember the Rams game, the Ravens? I mean, they played last week with the Browns. I think that effort and that fire will show up here, so I'm taking the Lions.
You're saying the Bears are already thinking about their vacation spots after the season?
Yeah.
Where do they go in Chicago?
Well, they split because they're in the middle. They go
So
half of them go to Cabo,
Hawaii,
half of them go to
okay.
like Bermuda, and maybe some of them go to Aruba.
I don't think so. The Bears are a better football team. It's hard for me to bet with the Lions.
Well, you never had the Lions.
I haven't got them
all
right
year?
the entire year, so you're probably right.
True. So I'll get the Lions on this one because you're wrong.
That's
Happy
the first game on Thanksgiving. And then CBS takes over for the middle game. It's a good one. Raiders, they've lost 3 in a row, still in the playoff hunt, though. At the Cowboys, this is tied for the highest total of the week at 51. Cowboys favored by 7.
I've got the Cowboys here. I'm going to lay the 7 points. I don't feel great about it. I do think the Raiders will be able to bounce back and look better than they did last week versus the Bengals. But the reality is this Raiders team has dealt with a lot. And I think, Derek Carr is now – it's starting to affect his play, I think, when you look at some of the struggles there and their lack of weapons on the outside of Darren Waller. So at this point, I feel much more confident in the Cowboys bouncing back after, I don't know if you want to call it a dismal performance, Pete, versus the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think you got to give the Chiefs defense credit. They held them to 9 points in that game. Dak seemed off early in it. Then you had some drops, too. Everyone kind of played a role in that. On a big primetime spot and game, I shouldn't say primetime game, even though it was the 4 o'clock hour, it still felt like the intensity of like maybe what people have talked about as a Super Bowl matchup. And it seemed like the Cowboys came out and played tight. They weren't loose, missed throws, missed assignments, all sorts of things going on. The offensive line didn't play well. I think they bounced back in this one, though. Lay the 7 points. Cowboys put up a big number at home.
Yeah, and the Raiders can't stop the run. I mean, we saw Joe Mixon last week. He ran all over them. It was 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think the Cowboys got to get back to that. Dak Prescott did not play well last week. He did not. And you remember, you heard he told Romo and the gang that it was the biggest game of his life at one point, I think he said. And was it really in the middle of the regular?
He really said that Romo just make it up.
Well, who knows? But
I mean,
I'm just saying, if he said that puts a lot of pressure on you taking the field. I think he'll be looser here. I don't know where the Raiders are as a team. They looked lifeless last week at home, and they've looked lifeless the last couple weeks. So I wonder if all the stuff that's gone on with them is starting to take a toll. So I'll take the Cowboys. And Tyron Smith is going to be back, and that is enormous for this
huge
team.
for them. Terrence Steele did not
Terrible.
play well.
The whole offensive line
Biotish
played.
got beat, too. He was struggling with Chris
Collins
Jones.
played bad. Zach Martin got beat by Chris Jones. It was a bad performance all the way around.
But they're not
they were in the conversation.
I was going to say they're not your spinning top.
No, they were in the conversation, though.
Okay.
I studied them
Well,
and watched them
Pete's
closely.
spinning top last week now, I believe, is going to move on to have surgery now because he was playing banged up as it was. So we'll see who Pete
You're
feasts
on the
this
field.
week.
You're accountable in my world, okay?
Spinning top of the week coming up, I think, next block as we get to our Sunday games. One more Thanksgiving game. You heard Tommy Tran in the preview that we rolled earlier say all 6 of these teams are coming off losses. That includes the Bills and the Saints. New Orleans really struggling, especially on offense. Alvin Kamara's been out. But the Bills, I mean, that's Pete's Super Bowl pick, not even in first place anymore in the division.
They looked awful last week. And the one advantage and where I really thought those 2 teams, the Colts and the Bills, speaking of, were going to meet was Colts trying to run the football and that front 7 for the Buffalo Bills stepping up. And it was anything but that. Jonathan Taylor with 5 total touchdowns in that game just kind of took over. And Josh Allen, the offense now, seems like they're just going up and down. I said it earlier when they lost the Jacksonville Jaguars, Pete, and I don't know if you feel this way. It's just scarring when you see a team that, like you, I had these 2 teams playing the AFC Championship game, Chiefs and Bills, excuse me. And when you look at that and you look at the way the Bills have played this year, as bad as the Chiefs have, I'm still optimistic they'll get there. I look at the Bills and some of their losses, and when they get blown out by the Colts, they lose to the Jaguars, I'm like, I just don't see it. Because at any given week, you don't know what team you're going to get from the Bills. That's a concern for me. That being said, they're better than the Saints. And if the Saints are going to give up as many rushing yards as they did to the Eagles last week, and if Sean Payton's going to play as conservative as he did, 4th and 7, driving in on the 10, you kick a field goal so you can go down by 11, still 2 scores? What are you doing? You're playing with a backup quarterback. Like, give your team a chance at least. I hated that decision.
You told me that you hated it.
I texted you right because I was like, well, it's happening right now.
I didn't like it either.
You're the king of this, by the way.
I didn't like that. I didn't like the decision one bit.
I'm still laying the points, though, with the Bills. I think they get back on track here. Look, the strength of the Bills obviously is throwing the football around. I think they'll get back on track in this matchup.
Here's the problem with the Buffalo Bills right now. The toughest guy on their offense is their quarterback. He's the toughest guy. He's the most physical guy. And when teams smack him in the mouth, they don't respond. They don't run the ball. They're not physical up on the offensive line. They've had all kinds of problems with their run game. And so they don't play a physical brand other than Josh Allen. And that's never the good thing. You don't want your quarterback being the most physical guy. So at some point, they have to run the ball. And you mentioned how the Saints struggled against the run last week. They're usually pretty good against the run, but they did struggle. It's a different style, though. But Josh Allen,
Hurts is part of it, but Josh Allen can be as well.
He can run as well. And I think the Bills get back in focus here. The Saints have so many injuries as well. We don't know about Kamara. The tackles were out last week. I mean, it's a problem for this team. So I'm going to take the Bills. I think they get going. Josh Allen plays well in prime time.
That is true. And the good thing is they did sign Taysom Hill to an extension. So
I was hoping
the Saints will have him for
as a different position, though. It doesn't say quarterback. It says different. It's going to be
he only has to average 13 pass attempts or get to that 224 pass attempts to hit that escalator to then increase to that quarterback.
You think he's going to get to 224?
No, I do not. But I thought I'd tickle you with that a little bit just to see how you react to that contract.
Gimmick got paid. Kudos
$40
to him.
million. Yeah, $22 million guaranteed.
He's a good football player. He's just a bad quarterback.
$95 million if he becomes a quarterback, which if it was going to happen.
Bad or good. I mean, 13 pass attempts a game.
If it was going to happen, it would have happened this season already.
You would have thought,
All right.
He had the concussion, too, though.
They both agree on the Buffalo Bills in that game, -4.5 in New Orleans. And also on the Cowboys, -7 at home against the Raiders, a game you can watch on CBS. Moving to the Sunday early afternoon games after the break, highlighted by a big one in New England. The Titans coming off a loss, still first in the AFC. The Patriots, the hottest team in the league. Our NFL game previews are presented by Caesars Sportsbook. These are some of the early games on CBS. Titans, Patriots, Steelers, Bengals, Jets, Texans, believe Falcons, Jags is also on CBS. Let's pick them. Beginning with the Titans and Pats. And Brady said yesterday, the Titans are frauds.
I feel like right now, how can you trust them? They've lost to the Jets.
It's a big word.
They've lost to the Titans. Are they the same?
Haunt you.
Okay, are they the same team that they were when Derrick Henry was there?
No.
Okay.
You're the big believer in Ryan Tannehill more so than anybody.
Well, he
around.
didn't look like it last week.
No, but
this is an opportunity now for him to kind of resurrect.
You are a
things,
defender of Ryan Tannehill, yes?
Yeah, he played bad last week. You can't cover up for that. It is what it is. They haven't found their rhythm yet offensively.
I'm just asking you if you defend them all the time.
They haven't found their rhythm yet offensively without Derrick
Henry. I'm
not
badgering the witness. I'm just asking if you defend
here's the problem.
them.
You keep talking. You're picking the Titans. I'm not. I'm taking the Patriots at home. This is a matchup where, they've got extra rest after winning on Thursday night. I think you look at how that offense is operating. They'll be able to run the football. Mac Jones will pick them apart. They found the rhythm offensively. It's really the defense, though. That defense for New England is getting takeaways. They've been playing everyone tough. And a one-dimensional Titans team, I mean, look, they'll have their moments, but I just have a hard time believing they're going to go into Foxborough and be able to win, or at least cover that number at 5.5, which I think the Patriots will be able to take care of business there.
See, and I'm taking the Titans. I think this is a perfect spot for Vrabel to get his group to play tough, hard, physical football. And we've seen them do it before. And they've rallied around situations like this. And I am kidding you, but Ryan Tannehill did not play well last week. He made some terrible throws.
No one's saying he did.
No, I'm kidding you about you're defending him all the time, but you do. But he needs to play significantly better this week, and I think he will. Look, I agree.
It's not this week, the rest of the season. They're not getting Derrick Henry back, okay?
Right.
I don't care what doctors put out there or what anyone said 6 to 10 weeks. He ain't coming back.
Nice if he had Julio out there once in a while, too.
Well, that'd be helpful, too. And but he's not. They're going to have to rely on A.J. Brown. They're going to have to rely on what they have in the backfield, running back by committee, and their defense is going to have to step up in a big way.
But New England doesn't score a ton of points. That's not who they are. So I think they'll hang around in this game, and for that reason, I'm going to take the 5.5. Bill Belichick's doing a great coaching job. He really is. And it might be his best coaching job, and that's saying something. Because this team sort of reminds me of the early Brady teams.
Yeah.
Really good on defense, limited quarterback. Because he's good, but he's limited right now.
The difference is, to me, Josh McDaniels' fingerprints on this. That offense, though, operated, they ran the football, but the way they spread things out, get the ball to Mac Jones' hands quick. With Brady back then and Charlie Weiss, it was more screens and then shots downfield. If not, you take that check down, right? That's more of, I think, the difference, at least in my mind, especially when you had a guy like Kevin Falk.
Doesn't throw the ball down the field.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the stark contrast between.
Yeah.
But that's not only Mac Jones. That's also a problem because he did it in college. It's not like he can't.
Right.
That's Josh McDaniels, what he wants to do. He wants to spread things out and utilize different matchups how he sees fit.
I just think the 5.5 is too many. I'm taking the Titans in the points.
I haven't had to score a lot of points, have the Patriots, because the defense has given up just one touchdown in the last 3 games. Another CBS game, 1 o'clock Eastern Time Sunday, big one in the AFC North and in the wild card race as well. It's the Steelers and Bengals, both over 500.
To me, this could be a close game. You know, you love seeing the Bengals bounce back. I think Zach Taylor got them back to a brand of football. You mentioned Joe Mixon earlier, the way he ran the football. That was it. But I also think their defense stepped up. You know, it's not like the Raiders have struggled to put up production of points this year. So kudos to their defense kind of coming around, making some of those fixes. Look, the AFC North is wide open right now. This is a monumental game for the Steelers if they want to get back into it. And I think for the Bengals as they want to try to march forward and maybe surprise everyone and be the team on top when it's all said and done. 3.5, though, I hate the hook. If this was 3, I'd be with you on this one. I'd probably take the Bengals, or obviously anything lower than that. But at 3.5, I think it's going to come down to a field goal when it's all said and done between these two.
Yeah, and I just didn't like what I saw from the Steelers the other day. And the offense looked better. Ben Roethlisberger looked better. And defensively, they're missing guys. They're going to get some of those guys back. But I just think the Bengals in this spot at home are playing good football. And this is a chance to show the rest. They had the chance at Baltimore, did it, and then gagged it away when they lost to the Jets. Well, this time I think they have another chance to show the division that they're for real, and I think that plays out here. They will run the ball. I think Burrow will be able to hit some shots down the field as well. They didn't do a lot of shot throwing last week. They'll get back to that.
I'm surprised Cam Hayward, though, nothing's been said yet of what took place. I mean, it clearly looked like he punched Justin Herbert. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He wasn't trying to get up. It looked like he struck him. I'm surprised the league hasn't stepped in and maybe suspended him, in particular for this game. Maybe that's still on the horizon, though. It's early in the week.
That would be a damning blow.
It would be, and that's why I bring it up, because if indeed that happens, that's a huge blow, in particular for the Bengals if they want to run Joe Mixon in the football.
All right, now time to our favorite part of the program. It is Pete Prisco's Spinning Top of the Week.
There you go. You had a little emphasis on the end of that this week. I liked it.
Oh, you got a Falcons player this week.
Oh, my gosh. And
multiple players?
Yes, multiple players. And I wanted
to pick on a rookie.
I wanted to. So what?
This offense.
Again, you're accountable. I wanted to stay away from him. I really did. I went and looked at a couple different groups, and because I knew they played poorly, but this was the worst. This was awful. And Matt Ryan, I feel so sorry for him. He takes a brutal beating every single game. Every game he takes a beating. And he gets right back up and he keeps playing. And
you
look at these
for what
plays.
he's getting paid.
Look at these plays. It's just, I mean, this is in the run game. And so you keep going. Terrible. Can't block anybody. But I love the pass protection. Double A gap. Okay. Who's taking them? Well, no, nobody. So he has to get rid of the football.
This is the first time you've been on a center this year?
I mean, here we go. Oh, man, Matt Hennessy, you're too small. And then he lets him slide through. And then what's he do? He just keeps going and going and pushes right through. And that's a bad throw anyways. He should have hit that. But
you could say, look, Matt Ryan has been under duress this year. No,
I mean, he didn't
play well last week.
He just takes a beating. And I mean, he just takes a beating. And here's Mayfield giving up a sack. Mayfield's been bad all year. Hennessy's not big enough. He needs to get stronger. He gets pushed around. This is not a good offensive line. And here's the thing. All of them are second-round picks or better.
Yeah. I was just saying, the draft capital the Falcons have invested over the years into that offensive line, I mean, it's damning that it's not worked out.
I mean, you got McGarry, the tackles, the second-round pick.
Lindstrom.
Matthews, first-round pick.
Matthews, another side.
And then Lindstrom and Mayfield are second-round picks, and then you have the center Hennessy second.
It's the type of thing where, again, I don't know if it's just lack of development with the offensive line coach. I mean, obviously, Arthur Smith has been there long enough to make that sort of impact, but it's been this way all year, and they really haven't had much balance. You thought they would, too, with Arthur Smith coming from the Titans, where they ran the football, they were a run-first team, and everything was kind of built off the play-action pass, some RPOs, those sorts of things. It hasn't been the case so far. And I get it. Like, you've got Matt Ryan, you've got Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley at times, but it's surprising that they've been this bad. I feel bad for them. Credit the Patriots, though, too. Bill Belichick does as good a job as anyone at finding ways of getting one-on-ones and then finding out ways of manipulating which way you slide. The one you pointed out there, when the line was looking to go one way and then he ends up kind of penetrating the A-gap. It happens all the time. We used to have to switch things up when you played New England, where we would basically point, not where we were going, but like who the running back had. So you would have the center do things opposite of what we showcased on film because they were so good at figuring out which way the offensive line was sliding.
You know what else they're great at when they double mug it is when they pick one guy and let him come around. They did that a bunch, too, in that game. They're great at it, but they're terrible at the offensive line.
They have just 3 points of the last 2 games combined, but they have the Jaguars this week. It's in Jacksonville. It's one of 3 pick-ems this week.
Say this much: the Jacksonville Jaguars are improving. I mean, you say what you want.
Well, on one side of the ball.
Well, on defense, but I'm saying if you go back and watch the throws from Trevor Lawrence, it ain't on him. He doesn't have much help out there. Jamal Agnew's probably out too, which has almost been their most electric player on offense. And so in this case, like I look at these two teams matched up, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'll start by saying that. I think I like the under better than the pick in between the two. But I'm betting on Matt Ryan in this one. I know what he's dealing with up front. I trust him more in this game to figure out a way of winning it. And so if we're just saying to pick him, I'm taking Matt Ryan. I'm taking the Falcons. As bad as the spinning top and all that was, I'm still taking the Falcons and Matt Ryan in this case.
I agree with you 100%.
Quarterback scales? No, quarterback scales?
Quarterback scales. It's Matt Ryan right now. But I'm taking the under as well. I love the under. Love the under. These two teams might not score a combined 20. I mean, they're bad. The Jacksonville Jaguars offensive staff should call their realtors. That's what they should do. They should call the realtors and try and start selling their house right now because they all have to go. It's a terrible offensive system. They are killing that kid. He can't make plays back there. The receivers are terrible. They have no speed, and he's losing his confidence. And you have to do everything you can to build that back up again.
Is this a typo? It says you're taking the Jaguars.
I am, because I think their defense is the better defense in this game right now, and I'm going to take the Jaguars' defense. 9-6.
9-6. All right, the under is the play there from the guys. Under, it's 46.5. Interesting. Okay, another CBS game, 1 o'clock Eastern Time Sunday. Jets, Texans. Both teams have 2 wins. Texans have an impressive one this past week.
Well, especially with Tyrod Taylor, the way he's playing once he gets in there, he's given that offense a little bit of a jolt. And so I think I don't care who's starting for the New York Jets, whether it's Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, Mike White, whoever. It doesn't matter. Tyrod Taylor's playing better football and helping them out offensively. And I think defensively, look, they've stepped up more at times. So I just don't have much faith in the Jets here. They're on the road anyway. And you're talking about 3 points. So I'll gladly lay it with the Texans. This is 2 bad football teams. So to me, if you don't feel comfortable with that, the under again is the play here.
And also, 2 bad football teams, you take the team that's at home. And when they're both bad, one team doesn't really want to be there. The other one probably doesn't want to be there, but they're at home. So it's easier to be there, and I'm going to take the Texans. They played hard last week. I got to give them credit. They came off their bye, and that's a good sign for Culley. I don't think he's going to keep the job, but it's a good sign.
After 1 year?
You never know in this league. They're getting like college football now where they fire him after 10 games. So I think I would keep him. I think that was a good sign for him. I really do. So I'll take the Texans as well.
All right, those are the early games on CBS. We're going to move on to the early games on Fox, and the Bucs and the Colts. A really good matchup here. 51 is the total, also tied for the highest total of the week. The Bucs favored at red-hot Indy.
Yeah, well, look at the strength, though, of the Colts, right? It's running the football. I don't think you want to put too much pressure on Carson Wentz in this matchup, right? Like, this is the matchup I think Wentz has been looking for in his career, taking on Tom Brady, that Super Bowl that he missed out on. That ended up being Nick Foles, not Tom Brady. Well, he gets his shot now, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work out well for him if it's on his shoulders. So I'll gladly sit there and say the Tampa Bay Bucs, I think their defense will be able to stop the rushing attack of Jonathan Taylor. And if you put this game on when it comes down to it, Tom Brady getting a field goal to win the game at the end on the road, I'll gladly take those odds. So I'm laying the 2.5, even though it's a road favorite here. I think they get the job done.
And Vita Vea is supposed to be back this week, and that's big if they stop the run game, because that's the Colts' entire offense is hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor and then throw off of those. And they threw some dump passes to him, and he made some plays. Look, Jonathan Taylor is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but when you have that run defense being what it is when Vita Vea is in the lineup, you will choke that run off and put it on Carson Wentz. And I'm with you. If it's Carson Wentz versus Tom Brady, I'm taking Tom Brady. Plus, the corners in the secondary, they're getting guys back. Murphy Bunting's back. Carlton Davis is coming back soon. So I think they're getting better on the back end as well.
I was going to say, Vita Vea, it's not even so much what he necessarily does. You might not see him as much in the box score. It's keeping those offensive linemen from climbing up on the backers for Tampa Bay. That's always how he plays the biggest role, in my opinion.
By the way, 28 Taylor, he's still got a long way to go to ever be as good as the real 28 Taylor. Fred
Taylor, yeah. Is he in the Hall yet?
No, he should be.
Okay.
What's Taylor in his second year? Give him some time, man. He's playing as the best running back in the NFL right now.
Hey, he won't be Fred Taylor.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, Pete. How many years did he play? He played a long time.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, Fred, Pete says hello. Apparently he wanted to say that.
Ask Ray Lewis.
So
we talked about it last week. Ray Lewis says he's best back.
Dude, it's a second year in the league. He's not even through it yet. Give him some time.
Okay. You're on record. Here we are. You're saying Jonathan Taylor would be better than Fred Taylor.
I'm not saying he's going to be. I'm saying it's a second year.
As good as he will be,
into 4 years into the,
as good as he will be, he'll be a very good player. He won't be.
Well, Fred Taylor also came to the league when it wasn't a passing league like it is now. Jonathan Taylor's just not going to get as many touches as he did. And plus, he's got to play one more game a season than Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor gets plenty of touches.
I know he gets plenty of touches, but he gets more. And the durability factor will be a problem there probably.
5 touchdowns last game.
That's amazing.
It was impressive.
Might be.
Did Fred Taylor ever do that?
No, he used to come out of the goal line because Coughlin put James Stewart in, and he got 5 touchdowns one game.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Jag, Pete Prisco, reliving those glory days.
Maybe you could buy some of those houses that are for sale.
They are for sale, though.
Okay, both like the Bucs, right? Both like the Bucs.
Yes.
-2.5. Let's move on to another 1 o'clock game. Panthers, Dolphins. It's another one of those 3 pick'ems this week.
I'm taking the Dolphins. This is a home team pick for me. Plus, I like what Tua's done. For all the stuff he's dealt with, I like what he's done. I think if you're looking at the 2 defenses in this game, it's kind of a wash for me. And it was weird. Like, you go back to last week, and the way people were celebrating Cam Newton's performance like they had won the game. I'm looking at him like, am I crazy here? Was Taylor Heinicke not the better player between the two when it was all said and done? And yet they were celebrating Cam. So, look, offensively, I think the Panthers are what they are. Their defense is going to have to carry them. I don't think they'll be able to in this one. I'm taking the home team, taking the Dolphins. I like what Tua has showcased really this entire year, and I think the defense is starting to come on. Their secondary, in particular, now healthy, is really playing at a high level.
That would be 4 straight wins for the Dolphins if they get it.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of this one. I think the Carolina defense did not play well last week at all, and I think they're going to come down here and play well. I think they're the better defense.
You don't think they get the South Florida flu?
The night before?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, where
some
they
teams come down here and get the South Florida flu.
Depends where they're staying. I like Carolina's because I think their defense is better, and I think they'll keep this low scoring. I do like the under. You like the under as well?
Yeah, I do.
That's one of my over-under picks. I have the under in this game, so I'll take Carolina and the under.
Yeah, I mean, both defenses are better than both offenses. So
Correct.
it's fair there. But again, South Florida flu, you've dealt with it before. And
many a time.
You always get sick at the Super Bowl.
No, we're talking about the South Florida flu.
It's a little different.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the Eagles and the Giants. Giants made some news this week. They got rid of Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator. Freddie Kitchens going to take over. Eagles, man, I mean, they're running the football as good as just about anybody, especially in the NFC. They've won back-to-back games.
Yeah, look, Jalen Hurts is playing well. Yeah, we keep talking about this. He keeps them in games. He's got that dual threat ability that you have to respect. I think it opens some things up and really simplifies what defenses can do against them. This one, though, I mean, they're laying 3.5. Kind of hate the hook here. I'm on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and take the 3.5 points of the Giants being the home team. Look, Daniel Jones, as bad as the second half was versus the Bucs this past week, I do feel like he's in store for a bounce-back game. They've got too many talented guys not to be able to win a few of these. And so I'm on the side of the Giants. I don't know if they win this one outright, but this is another one where I like the under, and I'll take the 3.5 points. I think it's close.
I think they do win the game outright. I'm taking them. I just think this is the perfect spot in the NFL where everybody looked at the Giants on Monday night and they go, oh, how bad were they? And you have an Eagles team that's playing well, and now you go play a division game at their place. That's tough to do, and I think the Giants will respond. I don't know if firing Jason Garrett is going to fix anything because they were a disaster on offense, no matter who's calling plays, and Daniel Jones has to play better. The offensive line has to play better.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's Freddie Kitchens going to do?
Right.
The reality is you're working with what you're working with. You know, we see on social media people throw out these, look at these plays, look where 3 guys in one spot. That was on Kadarius Toney. Right. It's a mesh route. He's got to be underneath all of it. He wasn't. It looks bad in retrospect, but that's not on the coaching staff. That's just on execution.
They do need to get him the ball more and
Sure.
down the field, not just those quick little throws down the field. The kid has
They'll be able to protect him long enough to get to him.
Yeah, well, by the way, Hernandez was a candidate for the spinning top. He was awful on Monday night.
So that's another offensive line. We talked about the Falcons and what they've invested into it. It's been kind of the same thing when David Gettleman got there, the investments he made in the offensive line. That hasn't worked out quite as well either. But they've also had issues with, you know, the offensive line coach and how that's all gone since Joe Judge has been there.
I'll take the Giants. I think they win the game outright.
Money line for Pete Prisco on the Giants. They got the fire in the belly now that they got rid of Jason Garrett.
No, I don't think they have fire.
They're going to play harder this week.
Are they going to get rid of Joe Judge? That's the question.
Yeah, might after this second season. You have 6-10 last season, 3-7 to start this season. Let's recap the picks from the early games from Brady and Pete. These are the CBS games at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and the agreement is on the under in Falcons-Jags, 46.5. These guys are loving the unders this week. Brady also likes the under in Jags-Texans. They both like it.
And I like the fact we differ a bunch this week.
Yeah, a lot more this week than you have the last couple. Both on the Buccaneers, -2.5, and both on the Giants, -3.5. Plus 3.5.
What's the over-under on how many wins Brady gets this week?
Put it at 6. That's what it was last week. So.
Yeah, I'd go 7.
There you go. Thanks.
I'd go 7.
Appreciate it.
Do you take the under or the over?
Well, it's not 500.
Would you take the over the under?
I'll go over.
I said it.
I'll go over. I think he's due. I think he's due.
Oh, you said it at 6 and he took 7?
Yeah.
I said it at 7, and I'll take the over 7.
Oh, you said it at 7. I'll take the
Confuse
under.
the audience enough. Coming up next, to the late afternoon games, maybe an NFC Championship game preview. Packers, Rams from Green Bay. We're picking winners with Caesars Sportsbook. Late Sunday afternoon games, Chargers, Broncos on CBS. Rams, Packers, Vikings, 49ers. Nice little slate there. Let's start with the CBS game, 4:05 Eastern Time with Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco. Chargers got a much-needed win against the Steelers this past week.
Yeah, they did. And Justin Herbert sort of looked the part. Austin Eckler played his role as well. To me, it was the defense and kind of that closing time. In particular, Joey Bosa really stepped up when they needed him to most. So I just think when you're looking at this matchup, these two teams, I think the Chargers are hot. They're trying to make a run to win that AFC West. I do love what the Broncos are doing off the field. They extended Tim Patrick. They extended Cortland Sutton. It's almost like they're preparing themselves to make a run at some veteran quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers.
Probably Rodgers would be the top of the list, but if not him, maybe Russell Wilson. And then depending on everything else that's happening down in Houston, maybe Deshaun Watson. But it seems like that's more of their focus right now. I think they'll be tough in this one, but at 2.5-point spread, the Chargers are able to win by a field goal. It'll be close.
He's free. They set him free finally. The Chargers finally set him free. And look what he did. What have they been doing to that kid all
Wait,
year?
you said last week that they ruined him.
Well,
The week before.
They did the week before. 2 weeks before. Set
it's up
him
and down.
free.
It's up and down with
Set
Pete.
him
Up and
free.
down.
Let him play.
Roller
You
coaster.
can let him play like this. He's going to put up big numbers. He's a phenomenal passer of the football, and he can run. He will put up big numbers in this game. I'll take the Chargers.
All right.
Set him free.
Move on to the late afternoon games, 4:25 Eastern. Rams, Packers. Both these teams have struggled the last 3 weeks or so.
Sure, but when you go back and look at last week, Rodgers is playing banged up. Credit the Vikings. I understand they got the win when it was all said and done. Still impressive what they were able to do to climb back into that thing. I'm not picking against the Packers here at home, especially only giving 8 point. I think they cover that easily, even with Rodgers being banged up with the turf toe. They have a bye coming after that. I don't trust where the Rams are right now. They've started to kind of dwindle as the season's gone on after that hot start. Who knows how Odell Beckham, what impact he has at all, because the Packers defense is playing really well.
I'm with you. I'm going to take the Packers here. And look, the Packers are banged up. And that was a great win for the Vikings, and they had to have it. But this Packers team, no Jones, the tackle Jenkins went down. Will Bakhtiari be back? When's he coming back? They have all kinds of issues. The two guys on defense, with Smith and Gary didn't play last week, and Alexander. They'll be fine. They'll be fine in this game. I think Rodgers bounces back and has a big day against the Rams. I like the Packers in this one.
Last late afternoon game, and it's a couple of teams battling for a wild card spot in the NFC. Vikings and 49ers. Brady, you said last week, look out for the 49ers because they're coming and they're going to make the playoffs.
And Jimmy Garoppolo's playing good football right now. No one wants to give him credit. I think the last 4 games he's over 100 quarterback rating. He's been playing efficient, doing what they're asking him to do. Their defense is kind of coming along too. This to me, and I know I never use this term, I'm not saying it's a letdown game for the Minnesota Vikings, but after a big win at home, divisional game versus the Packers, and the way Kirk Cousins and they did it, I think this is one of those games where they get kind of beat up physically, a little bit of a letdown. This 49ers team, I don't know that we're really totally handicapping as good as they're playing right now. I think the 49ers cover the 3-point spread, so I'm laying the 3.
I'm taking my man Kirk Cousins on the road in a big game. Come on.
I can't take you seriously.
I'm taking him.
I can't take you. Are you being serious? You're not being sarcastic.
No, I'm taking the Vikings in this game.
You're being serious.
I'm being dead serious.
Look into the camera and say it because I feel like
I'm taking Kirk Cousins in a big game. How about that?
You taking him plus the 3 or to win outright?
I'll take plus the 3, but but I think Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL. And people will say, oh, well, what about Adams? He is, if you asked him right now, and you could take any receiver in the league, you're building your team because he's younger, you would take Jefferson. Jefferson is phenomenal.
Someone asked me the question the other day, is Minnesota better off with Jefferson as opposed to Diggs? And I was like, well, in his rookie season, one full season, Jefferson caught, 1,400 yards? And Diggs never did that during his time in Minnesota. So, he's building a case to being
he's better.
Than the two, yeah.
My prediction, remember in the summer when we were in Minnesota, that he would lead the league in receiving. He's closing in.
He's 4th, but he's within 200 yards, I believe.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get about 150 in this game. I like the Vikings.
All right.
Yeah.
But not to win outright. Just
They might. But yeah, why would I take them to win outright? I'm getting the 3. Give me the 3.
All right, they agree on the Chargers -2.5 against the Broncos. Green Bay -1 at home against the Rams, and disagreement there on the Vikings and the 49ers. Primetime games. Browns are at the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. Baltimore won without Lamar Jackson last week against the Bears. And then another pick'em. Seahawks and Washington Monday Night Football. Let's start with Brady's Browns. Baker banged up. Browns can't score right now.
Well, I mean, look, he's physically going through a lot. And I think he's getting frustrated because, some of his play isn't what it kind of needs to be at times for this team. But fortunately, defensively, they played well enough to be able to win versus the Lions. But different challenge now. And now you're going to go up against an attack that I'm assuming Lamar Jackson will be back after the lung infection or bacterial infection, whatever he's dealing with, to be back in this one. It's a huge game in the context of the AFC North. It's a 4-point spread. I think with the way that team, too, can rush and pressure opposing quarterbacks, it feels like Baker's a little bit of a sitting duck back there. So I'm going to lay the 4 points here in Baltimore. I think they win this game, they cover, and they start to try to make that path to the top of the AFC North, maybe competing more so with the Cincinnati Bengals when it's all said and done.
The Ravens haven't played well. The Browns haven't played well. So if you're going to give me 4 points in a game where neither team is playing well right now, I'm going to take the 4. I think the run game will get going here. I think they'll be able to establish the run and take some of that pressure you mentioned off Baker Mayfield. And he's not playing well, and he's hurt. You're right. He's hurt, and he's toughing it out. Probably he shouldn't be at times. Maybe he should sit down. But I think he'll play well here. Well enough because they'll run the football. I'll take the 4 points. The Ravens might win the game, but I'm going to take the 4.
Look, he wants the contract extension.
Of course he does.
It wasn't given to him. This is a big year for him, I think, to prove that. He's out there playing banged up.
But he's hurting himself.
Well, you say that. See, I do think there's equity built up within the organization. They know what he's dealing with. They still won last week. We act like the Browns lost. They're 6-5. They're right in the hunt of the AFC North. And everyone's acting like the sky is falling. They won.
Beat a Lions team with a backup quarterback.
I understand it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's a win's a win in the NFL. You move on and you get by, especially when you're as banged up as he is.
There's no reason to be concerned about them.
No, there's reason to be concerned because I think you want to see him playing better, but you also have to take into account what he's dealing with right now, and it's a lot. Probably more so than he ever has in his career.
I agree.
Yeah, last 5 games, I believe they've failed to reach other than a game at the Bengals, that reached the 17-point mark. Let's move on to the Monday Nighters, Seahawks and Washington. That's right, 3-7 against 4-6. Washington's won 2 straight.
They have. Taylor Heinicke's playing well. The defense, they're running the football well, but the defense also is stepping up. I'm concerned because even though I feel like Seattle's played better defensively, Russell Wilson has not looked the same since he came back off the finger injury. We've talked about this at length. Eventually, he's going to adapt. He's going to adjust. He's going to figure it out. This is that matchup. They typically play well coming West Coast to East Coast in particular. Russell Wilson's been known for that historically. I think they start to figure things out in this one. If it's a pick 'em, I'm picking the quarterback. I'm picking Russell Wilson.
I'm taking Washington. I think Seattle's defense is awful. I really do. And you saw that last week. Colt McCoy did what he wanted to. That's a backup quarterback. He did what he wanted to him. And I think their offensive line's really struggling. Russell Wilson got brutalized at times last week. The pressure's really there. They're not really doing much in the passing game. He looks off. He looks jumpy. It's just not a good look right now for Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll cutting press conferences short. That's not Pete Carroll. It's not good in Seattle right now, and it won't be good on Sunday because I think Washington wins the game.
9 straight winning seasons for Seattle, and it's probably not going to happen this season. No agreement there. A lot of disagreement between.
Love it.
That might be a good thing because both of you guys have had bad weeks back to back.
Yes.
Well, I was with him last week, so I'm off.
And the week before.
No, I had a good week 2 weeks.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
I did.
No, losing week.
That is all she wrote for our Week 12 picks.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.